Joining me right now is House Financial Services and Foreign Affairs Committee member, New York Congressman Lee Zeldin. Good to see you, Congressman. Thanks very much for joining us.
Great to see you, Maria.
First, let's kick it off with the NATO summit and the president's comments. Your reaction at that closing press conference this morning.
The president is making reasonable demands on behalf of the United States. Our country provides over 70% of funding for NATO. These countries are our ally. The alliance is one that is good, that should be stronger, and that there's a way to make it stronger, and that's for these other countries to up their commitment. We have a whole lot of people here in our own country who say that there are individuals who aren't paying their fair share, and there are classes of people who aren't paying their fair share, and corporations not paying their fair share. Yet here you have the President of the United States overseas talking about these other nations paying their fair share. And because some folks here domestically or with domestic politics within these other nations, they are rooting against this president with this ask. They're undercutting him with this ask. If you just get right down to it on the merits, it's a reasonable one, and it's one that should be met with agreement by these other allies of our country in upping their commitment.
Well, you're right. I mean, you know, some people on the left are calling these demands for NATO on military spending destructive. They're calling it disgraceful. That was the statement of former Secretary of State John Kerry. He issued this statement. I got to get your reaction here, Congressman. It was disgraceful, destructive, and flies in the face of the actual interests of the United States of America. Moreover, the president, displays a woeful ignorance of the work his predecessors' administration did to increase European defense spending. Congressman, your reaction to the former Secretary of State's attack on this president between him and John Brennan, we're really seeing a collective negative response to the president.
Well, I think John Kerry has relinquished his ability to be able to use the term willful ignorance after agreeing to the Iran nuclear deal, after saying that there's a deal built on not built on trust, but built on verification. But yet even he didn't even read the verification between the IAEA and Iran. And that's just one example of John Kerry's term as Secretary of State. Now, post leaving that position as Secretary of State, and with this president he wants to oppose, and John Brennan and others, these are leaders of the Democratic Party, of this resistance, that they want to stir the pot here in the country, oppose this president on everything and anything. They say you can't work with the president because if you work with him, you'll legitimize his presidency. It's them who they are just trying to keep themselves relevant, to gain more followers. And they are actually doing it in the most destructive way because they are not trying to unify our country. They're actually doing absolutely everything in their power every single day to try to find a way to divide us. What would be better for John Kerry to do would actually be analyzing the president's ask on its merits, and then on its merits, because it's a reasonable demand, to actually be supporting what the president does. But they can't do that because they have their own political biases overcoming any attempt or goal of objectivity that the rest of us have for them.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday when the president brought up the gas pipeline, this is an issue that's also drawn criticism. He really took Germany on and its gas pipeline deal with Russia. Here's what he said about this morning.
Germany's coming along, and we still have to figure out what's going on with the pipeline, because the pipeline is coming in from Russia. So we're going to have to figure that out. I brought it up. Nobody brought it up but me, and we all are talking about it now. And actually, I think the world is talking about it now, maybe more than anything else.
It was sort of an obvious conflict, right, Congressman? I mean, did he spark a much-needed conversation?
He does that all of the time. When he shows up at these summits, listen, the President of the United States could spend his time in Washington, D.C. or here in our country and deal with important domestic issues. But there are a lot of important challenges on the world stage. He is not going to get on Air Force One and spend days overseas and waste his time by everyone just, hanging together and clacking glasses and drinking vino.
He gets right to the issues.
Right. That's the whole purpose of making this trip, is to try to get positive results for the United States, for the world.
Of course.
And so he puts these issues on the table. It sparks a debate, and that's a good thing. Let's have the conversation.
I saw some of your tweets earlier, Congressman, about Lisa Page. She's basically blowing off a congressional subpoena, not showing up today or yesterday. But Peter Strzok will be testifying in a public hearing today. Your thoughts and expectations for that, and reaction to Lisa Page, the FBI agent?
Well, the good news for Peter Strzok about showing up today is that it's going to help he and Lisa Page have their stories straight so that they don't have to guess what was said behind closed doors. The downside is that Peter Strzok has a whole lot that he needs to answer for. And he's going to be getting asked questions where it's Peter Strzok in his own words. As the deputy head of counterintelligence, he has his fingerprints on how and why the Hillary Clinton probe ended, how and why the Trump-Russia probe began, the Michael Flynn investigation, the special counsel probe. And he clearly, if there was one poster child of misconduct at the highest levels of the DOJ and FBI where their partisan bias was ruling the day, I'm looking forward to hearing someone asking that question about the IG's report, where it suggested that Peter Strzok was prioritizing the Russia investigation over the Hillary Clinton email probe. There are a lot of questions that need to get asked, and I'm looking forward to that. But, you know, as far as Lisa Page goes, she needs to get her butt down to Congress. It's a great privilege to get to work for the DOJ and FBI. It's a historic, important, legendary agencies. The rank and file are filled with amazing, exceptional Americans who take their oath seriously and love our country and do an exceptional job. Lisa Page, by being an employee of the FBI, doesn't automatically become her own fourth branch of government to play by her own set of federal laws, rules, regulations, and that's the point of the tweet that you saw. If she's not going to come here on her own and it requires a congressional subpoena, that's fine. If she gets a congressional subpoena and she's still not willing to come, well, then drag her here by force, because she does not have the right to disrespect this process, to disrespect the Congress, because more than disrespecting Congress, she's disrespecting the American public who want answers.
Well, her lawyer says that she hasn't gotten the documents from the FBI. So, I mean, you know, Devin Nunes says he's waiting on documents from the FBI. Is it the FBI slow walking this?
Well, that's a whole other issue. That Congress has a lot of asks out there still outstanding.
Right.
When the Department of Justice says that they can't provide information because a particular document will risk national security, and then we see the document and there's no risk to national security, and actually what the problem was is that it would cause embarrassment for an individual.
So what are you going to do about all of this? I mean, what is going to happen in terms of accountability here? I mean, we know that behind closed doors, when Peter Strzok was interviewed, a lot of questions he decided not to answer.
Well, the good thing as far as the transparency part of this, so there's transparency and accountability are both needed. On the transparency front, thanks to the good work that's being done by the House Judiciary Committee, Oversight and Government Reform, the House Intelligence Committee, Chairman Goodlatte, Chairman Gowdy, Chairman Nunes, they're great committees. And also on the Senate side, too, not just documents that have been produced, but also people coming before these committees and answering questions. We've learned enough. I mean, I introduced a House resolution calling for a second special counsel, 12 pages, that not a single bullet there's been anyone in this country who's poked a hole into.
Right.
And it details misconduct at the highest levels of the DOJ and FBI with regards to FISA abuse, how the Hillary Clinton email probe ended, how the Trump-Russia probe began. So that's a result of the transparency actually working. On the accountability front, Congress can't prosecute. So what's necessary is either the Justice Department itself is going to hold these individuals accountable. And by accountable, I'm not talking about just firing someone or losing a pension. There needs to be accountability as it relates to criminal justice violations, crimes that were committed.
Right. Congressman, good to see you this morning. We'll be watching the developments certainly later today.
Thank you, Maria.
Lee Zeldin joining us there.